A border, according to Israel, should take into consideration the wall. A border should take into consideration that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the state of Israel, and Israel wants the Jordan Valley. My God, so what remains is 60% or so of the West Bank, which I don't think any Palestinian leader will accept. They are trying to escape from addressing the issue of the de facto land grab and settlement expansion by saying, okay, let's agree on the borders issue. If we will find a solution to the borders, then we will be able to create the solution for the two states.
Just to put this into a context, in 1948, 94% of the country that was called Palestine, between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, was owned by Palestinians. By the end of 1949, after the war, 94% of the land that became Israel was now in Israeli Jewish hands, and only 6% remained in the hands of the Palestinian Arabs. Now, this ethnic cleansing that took place, in other words, the driving out, and we know there was an expulsion, and there are books about it not only by left-wing historians, but by right-wing Israeli historians like Benny Morris that document this very, very clearly. More than 500 entire villages were demolished. More than 11 large urban neighborhoods were demolished. Many other ones were taken over. Their land was taken, became land of the kibbutzim and land of agricultural settlements and development towns that we call them, and parks and so on. So in 1967 then, in the 1967 war, Israel then occupied the rest of the country. What's called the West Bank of the Jordan River, East Jerusalem, including the old city of Jerusalem, and Gaza. So that one of the first things Israel did was to stop a land registration process that Jordan had initiated, so that 72% of the West Bank that belonged to Palestinians but wasn't registered with the Jordanian Land Registry Office, all that land, 72% of the West Bank, was then declared Israeli state land, and that's the basis on which land has been expropriated for settlements, for highways, for military bases, for nature preserves, and of course for house demolitions.
When you look at the lands of the Palestinian rural areas, you will find that most of the rural areas, the agricultural land is classified as Area C. And the Palestinian villagers now, villages are becoming refugee camps, a population density of 3 to 4 to 5,000 people per square kilometer. They have been deprived of their land. So again, this is consistent with the policy of land grab.
But what it is important to understand when we talk about property rights is that we're not simply talking about private property, though that is crucial. After all, the right to private property is a cornerstone of the Constitution. It is a sovereign right of citizenship. In denying the exercise of that right, Israel seeks to deny a sovereign right of Palestinians to acquire a home, land, and establish a sense of physical belonging to a particular place. But in denying Palestinians access to public lands, control over water and arable land resources and roads, what is being denied are national properties and in turn national collective rights.
We want a sustainable Palestinian state, a state that can survive for the generations to come. It means we need to have control over our land and water. Israel is denying us 82% of our waters, denying us our riparian rights to the Jordan River. The two-state solution will become not one sitting next to each other like what politicians talk about, but one inside the other. And this one is not, but one's inside the other. There will be about 8 to 10 cantons under Israeli or inside the Israeli state. But that's how they are planning.
You sort of look at the trajectory over time, how the situation has got worse and worse. The settlements have grown, the number of settlers have grown, the roads have grown in number. It's very difficult to see how you're going to get a two-state solution. And basically what I took you to be saying a few minutes ago is that what the Israelis want to do is confine the Palestinians to a handful of cantons or bantustans, which isn't effectively an apartheid state. And as you know, both former Prime Ministers Olmert and Barak have said that if you don't have a two-state solution, which you seem to make it pretty clear you're not going to get, and which seems to be the case to me, you're going to end up with an apartheid state. Is that your understanding of what's going on here, that you're heading into a South Africa-like situation?
I totally agree with you. If we follow what's being talked about regarding the plethora of solutions, you don't see too much hope. In Camp David, the general perception that Ehud Barak gave us everything and it was Arafat who refused. Let me tell you, I was in Camp David. What was offered to us is 62% of the West Bank only. 23% was supposed to be annexed by Israel, and 15% to be leased for extended years to Israel. There has been some talk about scenarios for land swap. But I can tell you that as a Palestinian, I don't want to talk about land swap, because we cannot betray the United Nations system, which says the non-admissibility of acquiring land by force.
Zionism contained, and until today, this is a central element of the Israeli approach. Zionism contained an element that has really destroyed any possibility of coexistence. And that's the element of exclusivity. In other words, the Jews didn't come to the country and say, you know what, this is a country that's a part of our heritage. We want to revive our own national culture. We want a Hebrew language, a Hebrew university, but we recognize and acknowledge that there is another people living here that have national rights. Let's see how we can work these things out together. I don't believe the conflict was inevitable. If we take the entire country together, 80-some% of this entire country between the Jordan and the Mediterranean belongs not to Israelis or the Israeli government or the small bits of land that still belong to the Palestinian inhabitants. It belongs to the Jewish people in Chicago. If you're a Jewish person living in Chicago, you have rights to settle anywhere in the land of Israel, to live anywhere in the land. The land, in a sense, belongs to you. It's held collectively, but it's held in the name of the Jewish people. And this raises a whole issue that Jews here, I think, have to deal with. Do we want these policies of ethnic cleansing and expropriation to be done in the name of the Jewish people worldwide? Because it isn't only a matter of American values and human rights. There's a matter of Jewish values as well that certainly don't sit well with ethnic cleansing.